Okay, so today we're diving into something I think a lot of people will find super practical, and that's ways to improve spoken English.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically for those of you who are kind of around that B1 level.
Yeah, B1, that's a good level to be at. You've got some of the basics down.
Yeah, you're not a total beginner anymore. You can kind of, get by in a lot of everyday situations,
Exactly.
but you're ready to kind of step it up a notch.
Yeah, you want to sound more natural, you want to feel more comfortable.
For sure. And we've got this great resource here that we're going to be digging into.
Yeah.
That's packed with examples of everyday English conversations and little things you can do to fix common mistakes. Tips on pronunciation, even a short story to help you with your listening.
I love that they include a story because that really helps bring everything to life, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's our mission today, to kind of pull out the gems from this material, the things that are going to be most useful for you.
Yeah, the actionable stuff.
Yeah, the stuff you can actually use to improve your speaking and understanding.
And it's all geared towards, helping B1 learners, just like you guys, navigate those everyday English scenarios and really build those practical speaking skills.
Exactly. All right, so let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
The first thing our resource tackles is the foundation of communication, everyday English, those common interactions you have all the time. And the first scenario they present is ordering food at a restaurant.
Classic.
Right? I mean, everyone's got to eat.
Exactly. And it's a situation you're bound to encounter, whether you're traveling or even just living in a multicultural area.
Yeah, so imagine this. You walk into a restaurant, and the waiter greets you with, "Good evening. Welcome to the Green Garden Restaurant. How many people are in your party?"
Okay.
So that phrase, "how many people are in your party," it's basically just a way of saying how many people are with you.
Right. Very straightforward.
But it's good to have it, crystal clear, because you might hear it.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that phrasing manages to be both direct and polite at the same time.
Yeah, it's not like, may I inquire as to the size of your group, which would be way too formal.
Way too formal. Yeah, but it's still courteous. It's not just like, how many?
Exactly. So it gets the information across quickly, but in a nice way.
That balance is really key.
And then the waiter says, "Right this way, please. Here are your menus. Can I start you off with something to drink?"
Okay.
Start you off. That's a super common phrase.
Yeah.
That you'll hear in restaurants. And it just means, would you like to order something to drink first before your meal?
Right. And it's got that friendly, casual tone.
It's welcoming.
Yeah. Not pushy at all.
And then when the customer orders their drink, the waiter says, "Sure. I'll be back with your drinks shortly."
Another good one to know.
Yes. Shortly just means very soon.
Right. It doesn't give you an exact time.
Yeah. It's not like, "I'll be back in 5 minutes." It just means they won't be long.
Right. It implies a pretty quick turnaround.
Exactly. Like a few minutes, probably.
Yeah, and it's a polite way to kind of reassure the customer without being too specific.
Yeah, because sometimes you just don't know exactly how long it's going to take.
Exactly.
So it's a good one to have in your vocabulary.
And I think that's a great example of how those small words and phrases can really make a difference in your understanding.
Absolutely.
When you know those little nuances, it just makes everything flow so much more smoothly.
All right, so moving on to another common situation, asking for directions.
Okay.
This time we've got a tourist who's trying to find the train station.
All right.
And they ask a local, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the train station?"
Okay, so that's a good, polite way to start.
"Could you tell me how to get to?" Definitely write that one down.
Yeah, it's much nicer than just saying "where is."
Yeah. Yeah, it shows that you're being respectful of the person's time.
Right.
And it just softens the question a bit.
I like that, softening the question.
And the local responds, "Sure. Walk straight down this road for about 10 minutes. You'll see a large supermarket on your left. The train station is right behind it."
Okay, so nice, clear instructions.
Yeah. Walk straight down this road. That just means go forward, don't turn.
Simple but important.
On your left, that's a basic directional cue. but it's crucial for understanding where things are.
Yeah, and I like how they've used a landmark, the supermarket.
Yes, that's very common when giving directions.
Right. It gives you a point of reference.
So you're not just walking for 10 minutes and wondering if you're going the right way.
Exactly. And you know you're in the right spot when you see the supermarket.
So as you can see, mastering these kinds of phrases can be really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're in a new place and you need to get around.
It takes away that anxiety of feeling lost, which is a great feeling.
Okay, so we've seen some good examples of everyday English now. Let's look at the flip side.
All right.
The common mistakes that learners often make.
Because, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's part of the learning process.
Exactly. But by being aware of them,
Yeah.
we can start to correct them.
And avoid them in the future.
And a resource highlights a couple of key areas: verb tense and pronunciation.
Okay. 2 big ones.
Huge. And let's start with verb tense.
Okay.
They give us this incorrect example. Yesterday, I go to the market.
Yesterday, I go. What's wrong with that?
So the problem is that yesterday signals a past action,
Right.
but go is the present tense. So the correct version would be, yesterday, I went to the market.
Went. Okay, so that simple change makes all the difference.
Exactly. And it's such a common mistake, especially for learners whose native languages don't have the same kind of past tense structure as English.
Right. It's a different way of thinking about time and how to express it.
Another frequent one is subject-verb agreement in the present tense.
Oh, yeah. That one can be tricky.
So they give us the incorrect example. She don't like coffee.
She don't. What's wrong there?
Well, don't is usually used with I, you, we, and they.
Right. It's the contraction of do not. But with he, she, and it, we use doesn't.
The contraction of does not.
Exactly.
So the correct version is she doesn't like coffee.
She doesn't like coffee. Okay, so that little E is crucial.
Again, it's a tiny detail, but it makes your English sound so much more accurate and natural.
And it's interesting how these kinds of errors pop up no matter what your native language is.
Yeah, it seems to be a universal challenge for English learners.
But the good news is once you become aware of it,
Yeah.
you can start to catch yourself and correct it.
All right, so pronunciation. Let's talk about some words that can be tricky to say.
Oh, yeah. Pronunciation can be daunting for a lot of people.
But it's so important for being understood.
Absolutely.
And our resource picks out 3 words that often trip people up.
Okay, I'm curious. Let's hear them.
The first one is comfortable.
Comfortable.
And the suggested pronunciation is comfortable.
Comfortable. Yeah, I can see how that one could be a mouthful.
It is. And sometimes people might shorten it or put the stress in the wrong place.
Right. The stress should be on that first syllable, com.
Comfortable.
Yeah, and breaking it down into those syllables can really help. Comfortable. Try it with us, you guys.
Comfortable.
There you go.
Next up is February.
February. Oh, yeah, this one gets me sometimes.
The suggested pronunciation is February.
February.
And the tricky part is that first R.
Yeah, it's almost silent, isn't it?
It can be very subtle, especially for speakers of languages where the R sound is always pronounced strongly.
Right, so it's February, not February.
Exactly. And the last one for now is develop.
Develop.
The suggested pronunciation is DVL-up, with the stress on the middle syllable.
DVL up. Yeah, a lot of people might instinctively say DVL up.
Right, putting the stress at the beginning.
So it's all about that stress pattern, DV up.
And these might seem like small things, but paying attention to these tricky words can make a big difference in how clearly you're understood.
Huge difference.
People will be able to follow what you're saying more easily, and you'll feel more confident as a speaker.
And remember, it's not about getting rid of your accent completely.
No.
It's about making sure your pronunciation is clear enough for others to understand.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding everyday English, and we've looked at some common mistakes to avoid. Now let's shift gears and focus on actually putting your knowledge into practice.
Yeah, let's get practical.
And our resource provides some great speaking prompts to help you do just that.
Okay, so these are questions designed to get you talking.
Exactly. And even if you're not in a situation where you can have a conversation with someone right now,
Yeah.
Just thinking about how you would answer these questions in English is a great exercise.
It's like a mental workout
Yeah.
for your English muscles.
So the first prompt is, what do you usually do in the morning?
What do you usually do in the morning? Okay, that's a good one.
Think about it, you guys. What are the first things you do when you wake up?
What verbs would you use?
What kind of details would you include?
Would you talk about having breakfast or taking a shower or checking your phone?
And what tense would you use for those verbs?
Probably present simple, right? Because it's a routine.
Yeah, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I have coffee.
But maybe you'd also use present continuous if you're describing something you're doing right now.
Like I'm listening to the deep dive.
Exactly.
The second prompt is, what is your favorite food and why?
Oh, that's a fun one.
So this one pushes you a little further.
Yeah.
You have to not only name something, but also explain why you like it.
So you get to use some descriptive language.
Think about adjectives.
Yeah. Is it sweet or salty or crunchy or spicy?
And try to go beyond just basic adjectives.
Mm.
Really paint a picture with your words.
What is it about that food that makes your taste buds sing?
And the last prompt we have is, can you describe your best friend?
Okay, so now we're getting into describing people.
What words would you use to describe their personality?
Are they funny or kind or outgoing?
What about their appearance?
Tall or short hair color? Eye color.
And can you think of a story that really captures their character?
Yeah, a little anecdote that shows what they're like.
So again, even just mentally rehearsing your answers to these prompts is super valuable.
It gets you thinking in English.
That's just what we want.
And the more you think in English,
Yeah.
the easier it will be to speak in English.
Right, now let's talk about some broader strategies for improving your fluency.
Okay, because fluency is the goal, right?
Being able to speak smoothly and confidently without having to pause and think too much.
Exactly. And our resource gives us 5 great tips.
The first one is listen to English every day.
Okay, that seems pretty obvious.
It might, but the key is consistency.
Right. It's not about listening for an hour once a week.
It's about finding ways to incorporate English listening into your daily routine.
So podcasts, audiobooks, movies, TV shows.
Anything that you enjoy.
Yeah, because if you enjoy it, you're more likely to stick with it.
And the great thing about passive listening is that you don't even have to be super focused on what you're hearing.
Right, your brain is still absorbing the sounds of the language.
The rhythms, the intonation, the
Yes,
pronunciation.
it's all going in.
Even if you're not consciously paying attention to every word.
So it's a really effective way to improve your listening comprehension without even realizing you're doing it.
The second tip is think in English.
Think in English. Now that sounds challenging.
It can be, especially if you're used to translating everything in your head.
Yeah, I tend to do that.
But it's so worth it.
How so?
Because when you think in English,
Yeah.
you're not wasting time translating.
Right, you're cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. So you can respond more quickly and naturally in conversations.
So how do you actually start thinking in English?
Well, you can start small.
Okay.
Think about everyday objects around you and try to name them in English.
Okay, so instead of thinking mesa, I think table.
Exactly. Or instead of thinking libro, I think book.
And what about actions?
Same thing. Instead of thinking comer, think eat.
Interesting.
So it's all about making that mental shift.
Yeah, from your native language to English.
The third tip is a bit more reassuring. Speak slowly and clearly.
Ah, that's good advice.
It's so tempting to try to speak quickly.
Especially when you're nervous.
Yeah, you want to get everything out as fast as possible.
Right.
But it's much better to speak slowly and make sure that every word is pronounced clearly.
Because if people can't understand you,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how fast you're speaking.
exactly. So
Yeah.
focus on clarity over speed.
Hmm.
And the more you practice speaking slowly and clearly,
Yeah,
the more fluent you'll become over time.
because you'll build up that confidence.
The fourth tip is to learn phrases, not just words.
Learn phrases, not just words. What does that mean?
So instead of just memorizing individual words,
Okay.
learn whole phrases.
Like what?
So for example, instead of just learning the word book,
Hmm.
learn the phrase, I'm reading a book.
Okay, so you're learning the word in context.
Exactly, because words don't exist in isolation.
Right. They're always using some kind of grammatical structure.
And by learning phrases, you're getting that structure for free.
It's like learning a whole chunk of language at once, instead of just a tiny piece.
And the final tip is practice with friends or a language partner.
Practice with friends. Okay, that's probably the most important tip of all.
It is, because there's really no substitute for real-life conversation.
Right. You can't learn to speak just by reading textbooks.
Or listening to podcasts.
You have to actually open your mouth and use the language.
And when you practice with someone,
Yeah.
you get immediate feedback.
Right. They can tell you if they understand you.
And you can learn from your mistakes.
And don't be afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes. It's part of the process.
And the more you practice, the fewer mistakes you'll make.
Okay, so the last thing our resource includes is a short story.
Oh, yeah. I love stories.
It's a nice way to practice your listening comprehension in a more engaging way. So this story is about a boy named Sam.
Sam.
And Sam loves playing soccer.
Classic.
But one day it's raining.
Oh.
And he can't go outside to play.
So what does he do?
Well, his mother suggests that he try reading a book.
A book.
And at first, Sam is not interested.
I can imagine.
He thinks books are boring.
But
he decides to give it a try. And to his surprise, he actually enjoys it.
really?
Yeah, he gets lost in the story.
Wow.
And he starts to read more and more. And the more he reads, the better he gets at reading.
Makes sense.
And the better he gets at reading,
Yeah.
the better he does in school.
So it's a success story.
It is. And the moral of the story is
Let me guess.
sometimes unexpected situations can lead to new opportunities.
I like that.
So just like Sam discovered a love of reading, you might discover a love of speaking English.
Even if it seems challenging at first.
Yeah. But the key is to be open to new experiences
To step outside your comfort zone.
and to keep practicing.
So to wrap up,
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground today.
We've looked at everyday English conversations, common mistakes, pronunciation tips, speaking prompts, fluency strategies, and even a short story.
And the most important takeaway from all of this is that practice is key.
Absolutely. You have to use the language to improve.
Whether it's listening, speaking, or even just thinking in English.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Mistakes are part of the learning process.
So keep practicing, keep learning, and keep having fun with English.
And you'll get there.
And one last thought for you all to consider as you go about your day.
Okay.
Think about a common daily routine you have.
Right.
Maybe it's getting ready for work in the morning or making dinner in the evening. And try to describe that routine to yourself in English.
In English.
What words do you know?
Yeah.
What words do you need to learn?
And what grammatical structures are you comfortable with?
This will help you identify your strengths and weaknesses.
And focus your learning efforts.
So until next time, keep practicing, and we'll see you on the deep dive.
Bye for now.